Hello everyone, my name is Paul. Welcome back to the New News. I hope that everyone's having a fantastic day. I hope you've had a wonderful and relaxing Saturday. I hope that you, your family, and your friends are safe. And if not, I hope that you find that safety and security in the very near future. There has been a ton of stuff happening throughout the entirety of the globe, and quite a bit of it happening inside of Ukraine. There's been several big developments for the day, and as you can be rest assured, we will be covering all of them. If you do check out in the description below, though, you're going to see a ton of different donation links down there. These are donation links and fundraisers and what have you to raise for charities and organizations helping people in Ukraine and many other parts of the world. And I do implore you check out the other parts of the world too. According to the United Nations, a record of 345 million people are either living as refugees or internally displaced people, or they are suffering from situations throughout the globe and catastrophes that are attacking or that are causing issues such as food and water insecurity, as well as war, conflict, and obviously displacement. So please be sure to check out those organizations that we have down there in the description. We're currently vetting several more that have been submitted by you guys as the community. And if you yourself as a viewer do have another organization to add to that running list, and on our website and on our Discord as well, we maintain a list there too, then please go ahead, jump onto our Discord and get in touch with a staff member and let us know what that organization is. Shoot us a link for them, shoot us the information, a short summary of what they do, and we'll hopefully be able to get that added here to the streams, to the website, to our Discord, and anywhere else we possibly can in order to try and raise more money for them. 100% of everything we do here at the New News is for charity. We want to be the news that gives back, and the only way that works is through you guys. So we're never doing super chats on this channel. We are never doing any kind of merchandising. 100% of everything that we do here is going to be for charity and to help people throughout the world, usually of those that are directly impacted by the very news stories that we deliver every single night. And so with that, if you can't give a lot to these organizations, give a little. If you can't give anything at all, that's okay too. Help us grow this project. The more people that are come here and actually watch the news with us, the more people to hear that are going to be, possibly going to be donating, people that will help to raise money. And at some point, we want to be able to do fundraisers directly on every single stream that we're doing. So if you guys can, give us that like, give us that subscribe, let your friends know about, share us on your communities, whether that be Discord or Twitter. You can even follow and share our stuff here on social media, such as Twitter, Facebook, and also on Telegram. So if you guys can, the more people that come here, the bigger of an impact as a community we will have, and we want to do as much good in the world as we physically can. So thank you very much for the support you've already given us. It's been fantastic, and thank you for supporting these organizations, because that's really what this project is all about. Now, as we get ready to roll into the news here, to give you a little bit of, please ask questions. To give you a little bit of a background on me, if you're making questions or comments and you're watching live with us tonight, So I served in the Marine Corps between 2016 and 2020. I was an O-352 anti-tank missileman, meaning I used the BGM-71 tow system as well as the FGM-148 Javelin systems. So I am well versed in anti-armor warfare. I'm a subject matter expert in anti-armor warfare. I'm also a subject matter expert in armored doctrine, specifically those of near-peer threats. I did 2 tours to the Middle East, my first tour being in Syria, where I spent about 4.5 months, as well as Kuwait, where I spent about a month and a half. And then my second tour, I was in charge of anti-armor operations at the Baghdad Embassy compound as part of a crisis response company that went there during the New Year's of 2020, where we responded to the Baghdad Embassy protests. I also served with the crisis response force out of Kuwait, and I also trained Saudi Arabian Marines to prep them for deployments to Yemen. So if you guys have any questions or comments, I will try to answer those to the best of my ability when it comes to those subject matter expert topics. But everything else, do take it with a little bit of a grain of salt. I will try and answer them, but take it with a grain of salt. I implore you, no matter whether I claim to be a subject matter expert or no matter what I'm showing you here, please, if you are interested and you're questioning something, please do your own research. Do not believe everything you hear on the internet, folks. But with that, we're going to go ahead and get right into the news here. It's pretty cool to think that every single night that we start this stream, we open it with the Ukrainian national anthem being played in a very war-torn Kharkiv, the city of Kharkiv as it was encircled back in March. And it's pretty cool to think that intro that we do every single day is a complete 180 as we were sitting here talking tonight. From a city that was completely being decimated by the war, was nearly encircled by Russian forces, to Russian forces being completely pushed out of the Kharkiv Oblast. We're talking about a complete reversal of the situation in nothing more than a couple of months. In many cases, these kind of things would take years. Instead, it's just a few months when it comes to Ukraine. But as we begin the news here, we jump down here into Kyiv, where we start our program tonight. And we have a couple of different updates. The first of all is actually from the United Nations. Quote, to date, we have corroborated 14,059 civilian casualties. 5,767 civilians were killed, and 8,292 injuries by hostilities. As we have repeatedly said, we know the actual numbers are likely considerably higher. And that comes from Matilda Bogner, who is the head of the UN Human Rights Monitoring Mission in Ukraine. And we actually got that from the official press release from the United Nations here tonight. So if you guys want to read more into what she says, the entire release is there for you. Once again, all the stuff here is at the on our website, and that's actually linked below too. So I hope that you guys do take a look and kind of read some of that for y'all. As we continue on here, the child casualty update comes up once again. This is coming from the Prosecutor General's office in Ukraine. Quote, since the beginning of Russia's full-scale war against Ukraine, 383 Ukrainian children have died, 746 children have been injured. Most of the victims among children are from the Donetsk region. And that's unfortunately because when it comes to the individuals within the Donetsk and the Luhansk regions, even though Pavlo Korolenko, who's the head of the Donetsk Regional Military Administration, every single day on his Twitter talks about, please evacuate, leave these areas. And it's absolutely crazy to think that they simply aren't. But these people in the Donetsk region, the Ukrainian people there, thought they have seen it all. They thought they have been through war, considering they've been through the fighting, on these fronts between Ukrainian forces and Russian-backed separatists since 2014. I mean, at that point, how much worse could it possibly get? And not truly understanding, and with some understanding to that, they're not truly understanding how catastrophic this war truly is in comparison. And it is quite the next echelon. If not, it's taken it up a few notches. It's not the only thing. The environmental damage caused in Ukraine by Russia's war of aggression simply isn't nearly as talked about as often. The thing is that the ramifications of this war will last for decades and generations. There will be live unexploded ordnance in Ukraine for the foreseeable future, and it may take even hundreds of years to completely clear that out. Just look at areas elsewhere in Europe. Verdun, the Somme, Ardennes Forest, any of these places, every single year it's literally a harvest of steel in places such as France, in places such as Belgium, where war has quite literally just destroyed these places, and there's just so much munitions between the two world wars that they just have to stack it when they plow and till their fields every single year, because they keep finding more and more and more. This will be a problem for Ukraine going forward, and the immense amount of munitions is just insane to think about. The Ministry of Environmental Protection and Natural Resources in Ukraine released updated briefing on the environmental damages caused by the Russian invasion. Specialists conducted 232 field trips to the sites of environmental crimes and took 198 soil samples. Almost half of the territory of Ukraine was contaminated with mines and explosive objects. Pyrotechnic units have conducted 25,190 field visits since the invasion, surveying 69,856 hectares, and have detected, removed, and neutralized 192,230 explosive objects, including 2,106 aerial bombs. Shelling and burning led to the leakage of petroleum to fields and air pollution with toxic substances. The concentrations of ammonium nitrogen in the soil was 365 times higher compared to the background level. Organic substances exceeded the standard by almost 12 times. Rivers and water reservoirs in Ukraine, coastal waters of the Azov and Black Seas, and seaports were contaminated with mines and explosive objects. And on September the 7th, the Odessa Regional Prosecutor's General Office reported it had started criminal proceedings under Article 441, the Criminal Code of Ukraine, on ecocide, due to the mass death of dolphins due to Russia's armed aggression in Ukraine. That is insane. That is insane. You know, we talk about the insane numbers of explosives that are found here, but when you add all these things up, over the past 6 months, 192,230 explosive objects were just found. And that's not even talking about, these are talking about the liberated regions of Ukraine, the places like in the Kyiv Oblast, and in the Sumy and Chernihiv Oblast, where things are relatively calm and safe. This is not even talking about the Donetsk Oblast, where fighting has been ongoing for years, 8 years. Luhansk, 8 years. Places across the country where the fighting is still ongoing, will likely ongo for several more months as this war continues. And keep in mind, they are still, this is nearly a fraction of the munitions that have been found in these regions that have actually been liberated. It's simply not but a fraction of the amount of ordnance and firepower that was displayed in these areas. There's mind-boggling numbers already, and yet it's still just a very small fraction of what is truly out there. Now, we have an interesting story here. A Russian prisoner is telling the story about how he was captured. He was recently captured by Ukrainian forces, and he and another Russian were captured by 2 Ukrainian fighters. They just casually walked into the village, tied the 2 men up, and then walked them out. Take a look.
Я голову поднимаю, у меня передо мной уже автомат. Так, сколько людей в доме, тихо-тихо вставай. Я думаю, ну просто... У меня была первая мысль не то, что я как бы погиб, но ничего, я просто первая мысль, а где же наблюдательные пункты, как вообще попали сюда? Ну, получается, мы вышли на дорогу, вот так идет дорога от Максимовки до Кисловодска. Вот прямая дорога просто, мы вышли на дорогу и просто мы начали уходить. Начали уходить по дороге, я спрашиваю, ну я уже когда на свете, я говорю, а вы заходили так же? Он говорит, да. То есть 2 наблюдательных пункта, по 3 человека сидящие на крыше, и они не видели ничего. Потом вышла наша с роты, ну, я так смотрю, так вдаль вышли наши и начинают кричать, о, а вы кто такие? А куда вы идете? Куда вы идете? У меня руки за спиной, у нас ведут 2 человека, они говорят, о, вы кто такие, куда вы идете, куда вы их повели? Ну, конечно, уже...
А те что говорят?
А те говорят, ну иди сюда, мы тебе тоже, говорит, покажем. Ну и тут... Уже, наверное,
не пытались стрелять?
Ну, уже, наверное, дошло после минут 5, там, то, что надо все-таки, может, пострелять, там, я не знаю, как отстреливать пытаться. Уже начали отстреливать, но мы уже ушли.
Как второй подошел?
Второй? Нет, он не подошел. Второй...
That's pretty crazy. That's pretty crazy. They literally just walked up, snatched these two guys, and just walked away. Just walked away. Nothing happened. Like, there's not even a war going on. They're just like, yeah, come here, guys. All right, fun's over. Click. Wow, that was easy. That was easy. As you jump over here to Kharkiv, it gets a little bit less amusing, though, because Russian shelling has killed 1 and injured 2 people. So, quote, rocket attacks on the Kolondisny district and Kharkiv on September 10th. 1 person was killed and 2 citizens were injured. Residential buildings and an administrative and production facility were damaged. That's coming from Ihor Terakov, who is the mayor of Kharkiv. The issue is that here in Kharkiv, the frustration of the Russian forces is really starting to grow as they are at this point in complete withdrawal out of the Oblast itself. Kharkiv, which sees several strikes every single day, multiple times a day by Russian forces using ballistic missiles, usually out of Belgorod, have been striking this location continuously, even since their artillery has been pushed back to the point that it is no longer in range. The fact of the matter is they are now shelling it even more intensely than before out of mere frustration that they simply cannot capture Kharkiv, and they are losing even more territory as we speak tonight. We've had quite a significant amount of developments all along the front here. There's been some pretty big ones as well. So, first of all, you may notice these 2 points that have nothing with them, no description. And that's because these are usually when we have a yellow flag up, that means a liberation. And that's because the liberations do continue. Step by step, our fighters deoccupy Ukrainian land. Soldiers of the 113th Separate Territorial Defense Brigade liberated Vasylkov and Artemivka in the Kharkiv Oblast. And that's coming from President Vladimir Zelensky, and that is what we are seeing today. So, pretty amazing. And so that kind of shows you some of the expansion up here. Originally, we were seeing 2 main flanks here, one down towards Izium and one towards Kupiansk. We kind of saw this as the northern flank. Now we're starting to see that kind of wrap around as you're kind of coming across the rivers here, kind of wrapping around and kind of pushing a little bit further northward as these successes keep on and as they continue to be on the heels of Russian forces here in the Kharkiv Oblast at this point on full retreat. As Ukrainian troops over down here in Balaklia, which has been officially considered and declared completely cleared up, we're seeing poetic justice taking place. As Ukrainian forces were actually removing a Russian billboard with the words, "We're with Russia, we are one nation," a poem by a famous Ukrainian poet was actually revealed. The soldiers were not expecting this, but were quite touched. And the poem goes as such. Quote, "And glory to you, blue mountains covered with ice, and to you, great knights, not forgotten by God. Fight, and you will prevail. God is with you, for you are the truth, for you is the truth. For you is the glory, and the will is holy." And that's coming from Cherish Shevchenko, who is a famous Ukrainian poet there. And we can actually see this here as they're tearing this down. Take a look.
Yeah. Cheers. Слава Україні!
Слава Україні!
Героям слава! Де красотянка, ти що?
So pretty cool to see that they're actually pulling that something like that is there, considering all the action ongoing here inside of the Kharkiv Oblast. Many people, I'm sure, are probably questioning if there is some kind of divine intervention. So it's pretty cool to kind of see something like that. It's kind of ironic, all things considered. But as we continue here and on to the front, what we end up seeing is several major developments. First of all, Kupiansk has been liberated. Kupiansk, we saw the Ukrainian forces reaching it yesterday as we were reporting, and we appear to see it liberated today. There has not been an official statement per se by the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense or the Armed Forces, but at this point, Ukrainian troops were seen moving through Kupiansk really at their own leisure. There was no major resistance in Kupiansk at this point, and it would appear that Russian forces have indeed withdrawn completely from the area, and we do have quite a few things popping up today regarding this. So here are Ukrainian forces here inside of Kupiansk. You can see they're in a very relaxed posture. Usually if you're driving into some place that's relatively dangerous, you're not going to have this kind of relaxed, kind of kicked back posture. I mean, look at this guy. This guy's a little bit more concerned, I think, but this guy, he's just chilling on the back of this truck. Not a worry in the world. They're very relaxed posture. They're not on the guns. They're not worried too much. It would appear that they're probably getting brought to the forward line of troops. We also see Ukrainian troops talking to women, children, and just liberated peoples within this territory. They're not wearing helmets. Some of them, they obviously aren't carrying weapons as well. They're probably left them in the vehicles. This is not something you do when it's in just an area that's that has active combat ongoing. It would be very dangerous to do something like this. And this is kind of what's leading us to believe Kupiansk is liberated. It's done. The fight there is finished.
Тряпку ебучу, блядь. Не, Вань, ну ты там... Не, сильніше візьми, да, щоб край пішов. Во-во-во, йде.
Красава.
Ну, ти ж дитина.
Ёлки-палки.
Ну, блядь, ну...
Скоты, да?
Опусти вниз, вниз опусти. Пускай, давай. Тікай. Тут 2-метровий сидрук, блядь. Эх, это видюха охуенно, блядь. Чё я тут?
And this is the Ukrainian SSU or SBU, and these are their kind of security services here. And they were taking group photos here in Kupiansk today. So they're celebrating, they're relaxing. Usually you're not going to do these kind of things if you're kind of like in an active combat role. You're going to wait till afterwards. So it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy just how quickly this offensive has taken place, and just the immense amount of ground gained during this counteroffensive. The officers in charge of this, the planning that went into this, and just the sheer effectiveness of this all is just astonishing. It is astonishing to even the best of experts and analysts. It is just astonishing, the successes here. There has rarely been a counteroffensive quite like this in history that was this successful this quickly. And as we continue down here on the front, we get a little bit of an interesting update here, as some of these positions are becoming overrun. The Ukrainian forces are finding some pretty interesting stuff. There's about one thing that the Russian armies apparently pre-planned for, and it wasn't with ammunition, but instead for the dead, as we see Russian troops were reinforcing their trenches with coffins, which they had filled with dirt. Take a look.
Позиції орків укріплялися гробами, блядь. Гробами з землею. Потім землю вибрасували і схоронилися там, блядь. Дивіться. Ящики з бика та гроби, блядь. Ось отак вони укріпляються. Гробами. Вон ще гроби, блядь. Дивовижно, блядь. Але це факт.
Coffins. Those are indeed coffins. Those are not ammunition boxes. Those are coffins. So about the only thing that Russia planned for when it came to this entire area was nothing but taking home the dead. And at least one will probably be going back in a coffin. As we see here, a Russian Sukhoi Su-34, which has the NATO designation of a fullback, was reportedly shot down by Ukrainian forces utilizing man-pad or man-portable air defense launchers here in the Kharkiv Oblast. Once again, as part of the counteroffensive continued on today. Take a look.
Нихуя себе. Надо, блядь, растяжку не вловить, нахуй. Кацапский самолет, блядь. Це пизда.
Я їду тільки першою групою.
Ага.
Все, прийняв, вигрузився, чорного на обратно осталось, за другою групою. Я дорога на язду.
Yet another Russian aircraft successfully shot down by Ukrainian forces. HIMARS continue to destroy the Russian capacity to commit war. Not just HIMARS, though. The M270 Mars 2 system, which was supplied by Germany, continues to provide precision fires for Ukraine on Russian command control, communications, and logistical infrastructure. As we are seeing here, this is coming from the latest videos in areas of the Kharkiv Oblast, which have been liberated. The HIMARS systems continue to be able to cover areas that basically encompass the entirety of the Kharkiv Oblast, and they're putting effective fires down still as this war continues on. Aid packages are probably going to be supplying more additional HIMARS missiles as these continue to be heavily utilized in all areas of the front, and including successfully here within the Kharkiv Oblast. Take a look at this level of destruction that this HIMARS system has brought down onto this Russian logistical depot.
Дуже бетер, да, стоїть чи що?
Ось так виглядає робота хаймерсів. Ось тігри,
Дивлюсь, що тут таке.
бетери, бехи. Все, що хочеш.
Робота розвідки нормальна.
І все згоріло.
Хороший удар.
Бо у підарів все буде горіти.
А тут дуже бетер, да, стоїть чи що?
And keep in mind, you can see this continues on back on both sides. You can see some sticking up over there. This is an immense amount of vehicles and logistical vehicles destroyed. I mean, logistical and combat vehicles. I mean, just completely destroyed. No use for them whatsoever at this point. Now, there is no damaged vehicles here. They are all completely totaled. Once again, that's a major blow. When you have a concentration like this is a major blow all at once to your equipment, your manpower, your stockpiles, your supplies, all at once just up in flames. We're not declaring it liberated yet. However, Izium is essentially liberated at this point. The cleanup efforts are ongoing from our understanding. Izium is one that we're probably going to wait for the official declaration from the Ukrainian Armed Forces to report as liberated. Izium, the cleanup efforts are probably going to be continuing for some time. Getting rid of some of those collaborators that are currently that are reporting Ukrainian armed forces in the area. Adjusting artillery strikes, the ones any holdouts on the outskirts as well. But at this point, the Ukrainians have pretty much shored up, clear up to the Oskil River, the entirety of the Kharkiv Oblast up into the Oskil, which is pretty much just leaves wide open terrain until you get into the Luhansk Oblast. So it's pretty amazing what we're seeing here. But Izium, the last major area for the Russians on this area, on this part of the offensive line, really just it cleared in essentially a day. There is no major resistance in these areas anymore. There is nothing that the Russians are quite able to do. It's been a record number of, it's quite literally like the Russians are giving a lend-lease to the Ukrainian forces. It's a record number of abandoned vehicles, of taking prisoners, captured artillery and tanks, and everything that you could possibly try and want to get. Russia, I mean, they're getting more from Russia than pretty much any NATO country could ever provide. They still are the largest supplier of the Ukrainian war effort. Take a look at what has been captured here. This is all in a field near Izium.
Снимать хочешь на камеру. Аля, закрой рукой.
Да я вас не снимаю, мне ребенку показать, не переживайте.
Они, блядь, на работе, они, блядь, уже разобранные, блядь.
А о чем новостепном? Они же должны были там ремонтировать.
Если будет база, я тебе говорю, уже все проговорят. Раскрыли базу, и, кстати, не будете бывать. Они там старой, блядь, скорой там живут, блядь.
This really illustrates the problem with the Russian war effort. They bring in, and you see this time and time and time again, they bring in all of this equipment, just train load after train load after train load after train load of equipment into the country of Ukraine. You see it coming through across the Kerch Bridge in Crimea. You see it coming across Russia. You see it up in Kursk. You see Belgorod. You see it in the places within the Luhansk Oblast. You see it all over. And it's just trucks, and it's just artillery systems and tanks and BMPs and BMDs and BTRs, all in the back of all of these long flatbed train cars. And the thing is that they don't have the supplies to support it. They do not have the supplies to support it. Not only that, each of these vehicles requires a crew. Think of how many vehicles you have seen on the front lines as Ukrainian troops are pushing across this oblast. And you've seen a BMP abandoned, a T-90 abandoned, T-80, T-72. You've seen BMPs and BMDs and BTRs and artillery guns and self-propelled artillery just completely abandoned, just on the side of the road. But look at how many people they've also captured. And we're not going to show you just how many people they have killed, because we don't talk about military casualties here, but man, there are a lot of photos of dead Russians everywhere. And the fact of the matter is that each of these losses, you have to have a tank. A tank's great, but just because you have a tank, if you don't have anyone that knows how to use the tank, then it doesn't matter. You have a big, useless hunk of steel that's really expensive, but it's worthless if you don't have anyone to crew the tank. And it's equally as worthless if you do have someone to crew the tank, but they don't know how to use it, because then it's just not effective. It's not worth it. And this is the problem that we see over and over and over again. You're seeing, this is what you see here. Look, it's at a railhead. You can see the rail cars back there. So this is a railhead for them. They were offloading all of these vehicles here in the Izium area, and all of these artillery guns and tanks and BMPs and MTLBs were here to replace losses that they had, but they're not crewed. They're not being used. These aren't being actively put to the war effort. None of them are. Otherwise, why wouldn't you throw more tanks at Ukraine? Why wouldn't you? Why would you let them sit here? You wouldn't. You just wouldn't. You wouldn't let them just sit there. You wouldn't just let your MTLB sit there. Your troops need armored personnel carriers and gunfire support, even if, because it has a machine gun on the top, you would use it. And Russia just isn't. And now it's in the hands of the Ukrainian forces. Once again, just willfully donated to them. And here you can see this is these are Ukrainian forces. This is pretty much the confirmation. That is them on the sign on the outskirts, north side of Izium. This is the northern side of Izium. This is where this sign is located at. And that is where we get that photo from Ukrainian troops.
Підари так тікали, що аж техніку побасали. Тебе послужи в ЗСУ. Підари так тікали, що аж техніку побасали.
There's more T-72s captured for you. Well, wait a second. These are T-80s. Well, wait a second. Wait a second.
Підари
I'm not going to call it T-Series tank. I'm a little rusty, guys. I apologize. But anyway, that is Izium. Izium is pretty much captured. It has been liberated. It's just a cleanup efforts now for Izium, just because of its major importance there for this area, for these locations. We are just going to say, hey, we're going to wait for the Ukrainians to officially declare it on that one, because that really marks a pretty big milestone for them, and we want to have absolute confirmation before we're calling that. As we continue here and into the Donbass and here into the Donetsk Oblast, we get, of course, the daily Donetsk update from Pavlo Krylenko. Got to go through your manuals. Do you want me to pull out the manuals? No, you don't want me to pull out the manual? I can pull out the manual. We can go back. Hold on. I will go back. All right, then. We won't go back, I guess. Yes, I do have to go through my manuals. Don't worry. I got more laying here next to me. For all sorts of stuff. They're just everywhere. Let me tell you, they're just everywhere. So Cox says, any news on Lysychansk? Oh, I almost missed a point up here, yes. Any news on Lysychansk? No, we don't have any news out of Lysychansk. When you're talking about areas under occupation by the Russians, there's very little information that's going to be coming out. Most of these areas had their infrastructure rather destroyed, so let alone they're not going to be able to really kind of... They can't charge their phones, let alone have the ability to kind of communicate outside of the region. This is one of the reasons why those 10,000 Starlink systems were sent to Ukraine by Elon Musk and Tesla, is just because... It's I don't know if it's Tesla or the boring company that made those, but it's why they were sent here, because the infrastructure is just not there to support it. They don't have electricity to charge their phones, let alone give a lot of information, be able to put stuff out onto the internet in a lot of these areas. So it's very limited in the capacity of what we are getting. We do know that the humanitarian situation there is really desperate. We do know that there is some kind of aid coming into it in some small capacities. We've seen pretty major... we do have some pretty major videos of long queue lines for food and whatnot. Very similar to the situation in Mariupol, but not quite. I don't want to dare say not as desperate, but I would say that Lysychansk, because it's in the Luhansk Oblast, is probably faring a little bit better. A little bit, but not by much. Erebus says I can mail you an additional bookshelf, specialty bookshelf. I'm good. This one actually fits. It's perfect there at the bottom on my bookshelf. Those are all of my technical manuals. For those that don't know, the bottom shelf of my bookshelves, all of my technical manuals, and they are stuff that either I have written down or they're technical manuals that I've collected. I have the tow system technical manual there, the Javelin, which is actually still in the wrapper, which I probably need to pull out. But I have all, the ones that I have right here are the ones for the M2A1, M2H, and M2HB 50 cal, as well as some of their other variants. And I also have the manual for the PBS 14s. Next to me is what I was pulling out. And I got a couple gun books. It appears to be for mortars, 81 millimeter mortar systems. The gun books aren't really necessary. I don't have any use for them. Just because it tells me round counts for when we need to get the tubes checked. Error, print more manuals. These aren't printed. These are ones that I collected when I was in the military. I ran an armory for like 2.5 years. And so I just obtains a lot of manuals to kind of learn a lot more, especially about my weapon systems. But anything I ever written down, anything I ever had on hand, I was able to get a manual for. I did. Up here, to wrap up the Kharkiv Oblast, because I almost missed this point, collaborators are actually and local occupational appointed officials are currently fleeing the Kharkiv region into Russia. The Kharkiv, in occupational areas, there's a joint occupational and it's a joint occupational and civilian government in many of the occupied areas. These are pro-Russian sympathizers and collaborators who are working with the military or with the Russian military to create a government. Basically, it gives the occupying forces a civilian front of this is being democratically done. The referendums are democratically done. These are Russian sympathizers. These are Russian collaborators. These are people who are backing the Russians. These are the very small percentage of people that are backing the Russians. There is a percentage of people in Ukraine that back the Russians. We know that. The separatist forces began semi on their own, but the Russian military really is the one that was able to continue the engagement clear up until their invasion. And now, of course, they're just directly involved. But for 8 years, it was really the Russian army that was really just changing over into civilian clothes and going and fighting in the Donbass. That's why Ukraine's saying, we've been at war for like 8 years now, guys, and why you just give us more, just finally give us the stuff we've been asking for so we can go and finally kick these guys' ass. Like, that's what the Ukrainian kind of mentality is, and I can understand why. But there are people in these regions, there are individuals that do back the Russian Federation. A lot of these are older individuals that remember the time of the Soviet Union. They still have a lot of sympathies regarding that. And so there's some nostalgia there, and that's kind of what we're seeing here. They are fleeing, though. Take a look. Notice the grain trucks, too. Entire convoys of grain trucks just lined on the side of the road alongside of all of these collaborators. But as we move down here into the Donetsk region, we do get... Notice that they're not... Charlton Brook. Notice that they're not being shelled by Ukrainian artillery, unlike what the Russia did to fleeing Ukrainians. Exactly. Russia was pretty notorious for shelling humanitarian corridors. They're very notorious for doing that. Very notorious for doing that. They're leaving at their own will. That's another really, really important point to note on. These people are willfully leaving Ukraine to go to Russia. Nobody's forcing them to leave. They're willingly doing so. There isn't anyone that's forcing Ukrainians. They're not being forced to go back to Ukraine. No, they're just allowed to just leave. Just leave. Over here in Kramatorsk, we get the daily Donetsk update. Quote, Russian aggressors fired missiles at the Donetsk region on September the 9th. 2 people were killed and 5 citizens were injured. This comes from Pavel Korolenko, who's the head of the Donetsk Regional Military Administration. We actually can get that update directly from his Twitter, which we have here. Russia kills civilians. On September 9th, number of victims of the Russian army in Donetsk Oblast increased by 2 killed and 5 injured. Every Russian will pay for his crimes in Ukraine. And he does actually maintain a map here where he shows that so far here in the Donetsk Oblast, 821 civilians have been killed, with 2,053 having been injured. Over here in Bakhmut, we do know that Bakhmut was one of those sites that received some shelling. The shelling does continue to hit this Ukrainian occupied city, as Russia has really stalled out in their offensive down here in the Donetsk Oblast in areas such as Seversk, Bakhmut, Toretsk, and Soledar, where they were even on the outskirts and getting into Soledar at that point. But as you can see here, that the shelling has been hitting civilian infrastructure. This is a civilian home. And you can see that's landing in and amongst these civilian areas. These are not military targets. Pishilin, who is the head of the Donetsk People's Republic, or the DPR, is on the move, as he says, quote, "Problems on the outskirts of the DNR have begun."
Уважаемые друзья, немного о Красном Лимане. Ситуация там остается достаточно тяжелой, как и в ряде других населенных пунктов на севере республики. Тем не менее, я остаюсь на связи с местными администрациями, я остаюсь на связи с экстренными службами, да и с нашими подразделениями. Информации гораздо больше, но смогу я ее, наверное, публичить немного позже. Почему? Потому что пока она на данном этапе может пойти во вред, по крайней мере, нашим подразделениям, что недопустимо сейчас. В целом хочу восхититься нашими людьми, нашим Донбассом.
And that is Pishilin himself, but as you can see, problems on the outskirts of the Republic. So it's been hinted that Ukraine may be pushing on all fronts, and that it just happens that this area, this there up in Kharkiv and that Kherson were just, well, some people are claiming Kherson may have been a diversion, which is possible, but there's also been reports that Ukraine is pushing in other areas of the front lines too. So it's very interesting to see if that is the case. We're waiting for some kind of confirmation, and we're trying to see we're hoping to kind of see gains here as that kind of situation develops. But it's very, very, very interesting to see that he may be having to flee for what could possibly be another breakthrough. We'll have to see. Fair is saying, I am totally not fleeing the city right now. Yeah, no kidding. I am totally not leaving after watching the catastrophe that was, because if the Kharkiv Oblast, which has been occupied and has had a defense in depth for months now, can fall, I can't imagine what the Donetsk region's looking like, considering there's been constant fighting, constantly losing troops in this region. So you go over here, maximum comfort here in the trenches. Is anyone down for a wood fire pizza? Anybody? It's even equipped with a thermometer. Take a look.
Hello. Коротше, мене не покидають думки і мрії відкрити невеличкий заклад харчування для військових тут в окопах. Коротше, і що ми для цього робимо з хлопцями? Дайте на секундочку телефон, я покажу своїм телеглядачам. Дивіться, ми з хлопцями що зробили? Па-бам! Ми побудували піч, реальну піч в окопі. От, будемо пробувати запускати якісь нові страви. Є такий термометр, зараз будемо її перевіряти. Я думаю, далі буде цікавіше. Будуть відосики.
Dude, do you know how cool it would have been to get like pizza and stuff like this in Syria? You know how awesome it would be? I ate plain rice and chicken for 4.5 months straight for every single meal. You know how bomb it would be to get pizza? Do you know how awesome that would have been? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. These guys would know how to fight a war. Shit, you're telling me I can be in a trench and I can have a pizza? Yeah? These guys know how to fight a war. Damn. That's awesome. I wish someone would have taught me how to do that. Shit, I would have done that. I cooked stuff on an ammo can when I was there. And we took an ammo can. When we took an ammo can and we took like a pot and we boiled some water and we got pho noodles or pho. We got pho noodles and we dropped it in the ammo can. We washed it. Don't worry, we washed it. I mean, it's Syria, so how good is the wash going to do? But we washed it. But we boiled noodles in it, and then I punched some holes in the bottom of it after we got done with the noodles part. And I got a hold of a local, and I got some eggs, and we wrapped we tactically acquired some aluminum foil from the chow hall, wrapped the lid in aluminum foil, and then we punched some holes in the bottom of the 50 cal ammo can, and then we put a bunch of wood in there and lit a fire. And then we cooked over that and used the lid as like a pan. And they made some scrambled eggs on that. Like, we did that, but this is so much more sophisticated. I thought I was a genius doing that. Man, this guy's got a Pizza Hut in his trench. Man. Ooh. Subcox says Papua New Guinea just got a 7.7 earthquake. If any of the staff that's watching tonight, someone could get some confirmation on that, shoot to me on the staff Discord, that would be fantastic. So we will hopefully have an update regarding the Papua New Guinea thing here in once we get to the international news. Thank you. Music for the Dead. And that's kind of the situation down here in Mariupol. So after filling the foundation of the drama theater, which was filled with the bodies of the dead who were blown up after a Russian airstrike hit that location with a couple of Fab 500s, they filled the drama theater with chlorine and cement to fight the horrible smell of the dead that were buried underneath. The Russians decided it was a good idea to now host an orchestra on top of the mass grave. Take a look. That's absolutely sickening. Unbelievably so. Sorry guys, I didn't mean to just kind of toss it like that. So jump up here to the Dnipropetrovsk Oblast. We see that a Russian missile was downed here up in the Dnipropetrovsk. Quote, on September the 10th, Russian air defense forces shot down a Russian missile in Dnipropetrovsk region. That's coming from the press service of the Air Command East. Now, some of you may remember that last night there was a couple of things that were said, and one of the details that struck me was regarding the grain shipments. So there was a couple of comments last night made by Shanglu the Pirate, I think, who I asked to send some of their sources to me on the Discord because I was very interested in what they were saying because I've seen very little evidence to support what was being said. And some of those include 3% of all the grain from Ukraine has been sent to, stricken areas, which was the main reason for the grain corridor, has been sent to areas that are starving. So I went through today, and of course we got another update regarding more grain ships departing the port. He said that, quote, on September the 10th, 5 more ships left Ukrainian ports in Odessa, Chernomorsk, and Pivdeni through the grain corridor. 90,000 tons of Ukrainian agricultural products are on board, and they're headed to countries of Africa and Europe, and that's coming from the Ministry of Infrastructure of Ukraine. But one of the things that really struck me, I wanted to do some more research onto that, because I want to find out just how much is going. And so here's the thing: once the grain corridor opened up, what was stated was starving poor African nations, to quote with the Shanglu the Pirate. One of the things that I found was that the World Food Program, or the WFP, which is run by the United Nations, stated that right after the grain corridor became open, they stated that they would be buying, as part of the grain deal, up to 150,000 metric tons of grain and agricultural products from Ukraine to fight the ongoing food crisis. Up to 150,000 tons, meaning that the number was already there. The number was already set as to how much food would be going to starving places as part of the World Food Program. And it's 150,000 tons. That is the set number, up to 150,000 tons. That is the set number that is going by, regardless of how much is moving into the global market, regardless of how many leaves. It will be 150,000 tons and no more, according to the World Food Program, as to what they will buy this year from Ukraine. So, we have the official number. And if you yourself are interested, then I also found that the United Nations is actually tracking each individual ship in regards to the Black Sea. And if you go on to the map here, which once again you can get at our website, it's in the link. It's linked in the description below. You can actually go and you can click on this link from the map. And this is the Black Sea Grain Initiative Joint Coordination Center, and it's tracking the vessel movements. And you can see the departure port, the vessel name, the IMO number, the country that is headed to, what commodity is on board, the tonnage of the commodity, and the date that it was inspected by Istanbul. And you can see things like a lot of it's going to Turkey. Iran corn there were 660. There's 66,084 metric tons that went to Iran. Let's take a look here. Corn once again 60,000. Let's take a look. Continuing down here, a lot to Turkey. Djibouti, wheat 23,300 metric tons. Turkey. Egypt 25,500 tons. Lebanon 16,500 metric tons. Sudan 65,340 metric tons. Egypt 11,000 metric tons. Egypt 33,000 metric tons. Egypt 44,000 metric tons. 37,500 metric tons of wheat to Yemen. India 21,000 tons of sunflower oil. Somalia 28,500 tons of wheat. Wheat once again to Egypt 31,400 tons. Kenya wheat 51,400 tons. And that one has not departed yet. So, yeah. So if you want to track all of the grain shipments, then you can check out this, and it will tell you. You can see the name of the ship: the Navistar, the Erosion, the Polar Net, the Glory, the Star Helena, the Rivia Wind. You can see every single ship, its tracking numbers and everything, the tonnage and everything on board. So if you're interested and want to know that knowledge and want to see what's true and what isn't, do the math yourself. It's all right there for you. So feel free, have fun, and feel free to check that kind of stuff out. It's very important to truly know what's going on, and it's good to have the resources to be able to fact check these things. I please implore you, please fact check your information. That's actually it for everything inside of Ukraine. But don't worry, just because that's everything inside of Ukraine doesn't necessarily mean that's the end of the talk about Ukraine. Because, oh man, do we have some developments. Oh man, are there some developments. So, St. Petersburg. The deputies who accused Putin of treason have gone to court. All deputies of the Smolensko municipality left the 76th Police Department. 5 with protocols under 20.3.3 of the Code of Administrative Offenses of the Russian Federation. Baltrukov, Kiseleva, Polyuga, Shabutar, and Uferev. Lawyers did not recommend disclosing details before the trial. Nikita Uferev, Dmitry Baltrukov, Dmitry Poliga, and Ivan Chupatar, and Anna Koselyova from the municipality were brought administrative cases to the discredit of the Russian armed forces. Now each of them face a fine of up to 50,000 rubles. And here is that Twitter. I don't think they have a problem with what they said. They don't seem to. And as we jump down here and into Moscow, the Russian Ministry of Defense has admitted the withdrawal of its forces from the Kharkiv Oblast. This comes less than 24 hours after they reportedly were sending forces toward Izium and Kupiansk to reinforce their positions. Now the forces are reportedly being pulled to the Donetsk Oblast to support the ongoing military efforts within that area. And we do have that official statement from the Ministry of Defense for the Russian Federation. Also, I want to note that some of the images that they're showing are the very same images of the Russian Federation going to the Izium Oblast, or to the Izium and Kupiansk areas that we showed yesterday. Take a look.
Для достижения заявленных целей специальной военной операции по освобождению Донбасса принято решение перегруппировать российские войска, находящиеся в районах Балаклеи и Изюма, для наращивания усилий на Донецком направлении. С этой целью в течение 3 суток проведена операция по свертыванию и организованной переброске изюмско-балаклейской группировки войск на территорию Донецкой Народной Республики. В ходе этой операции проведен ряд отвлекающих и демонстрационных мероприятий с обозначением реальных действий войск. В целях недопущения ущерба российским войскам по противнику наносилось мощное огневое поражение с применением авиации, ракетных войск и артиллерии. За 3 суток уничтожено более 2000 украинских и иностранных боевиков, а также свыше 100 единиц бронетехники и артиллерии. Для достижения
Yeah, they did, in order to protect their military force, they provided harassing efforts in the area around Kharkiv, in Kupiansk and Izium, and they withdrew most of their force, and they killed 2,000 Ukrainian troops and in the process, and that was to protect the main force that they had. Those images out of Ukraine totally aren't the main body of the Russian army here at all. No. They totally didn't just get their asses handed to them in the Kharkiv. No, they withdrew because the special military operation needed them elsewhere. Meanwhile, while the military catastrophe is ongoing here, Putin opened up a Ferris wheel, the largest Ferris wheel in Europe, actually. So, as the colossal military disaster is ongoing in Ukraine for the Russians, Putin opened the biggest Ferris wheel in Europe. Of course, he wasn't there personally. He did a virtual opening ceremony. Take a look.
Сегодня мы его запускаем. Спасибо вам большое. Надеемся, Владимир, что у вас найдется в будущем время посетить и увидеть. На самом деле, это уникальное в техническом плане сооружение. Хотелось бы, чтобы вы увидели это своими глазами. Спасибо большое.
Спасибо. Ну, конечно, уникальный, 140 метров высотой. Конечно, в Европе такого нет. Конечно, уникальный. Вам спасибо большое за то, что вы развиваете вот это направление отдыха, развлечений в Москве. Для людей это очень важно, иметь возможность отдохнуть с друзьями, с семьей.
Сегодня мы его...
Yeah. So yes, I had a meme that I may have put together for that. Many Russian telegrams wrote angry posts about how underfunded they are in Ukraine as the government continues to pretend that there's absolutely no war going on. Straight off of some of these Russian telegrams for you guys. The army has no thermal imaging cameras, no body armor, no reconnaissance equipment, no secure communications, no sufficient number of copters, no first aid kits. You're holding a 1 billion ruble feast. What's wrong with you? I mean, not during such a horrendous failure. I keep coming here and looking into the eyes of the soldiers every time. I can't cover all the requests, all the necessities. We are now handing over 2 bulletproof vests per battalion. 2 per battalion. We need hundreds of them. Thousands. That's 2 lives, maybe. That's why we're still handing over. Shall I continue? It is good to have a spoon for dinner, not for a wake. And yeah, we're still going to win. Also, the Ferris wheel broke after about an hour.
Обновленная информация, оно снова встало. Ну, не двигается. И
Rooster Sideburn says it's turning into North Korea. Well, considering that they are friends, becoming closer and closer friends with North Korea, I'd say so. Down here in Belgorod, once again, that ferocity of Russian barrages has continued. Russia launched 9 missiles at Kharkiv and the Oblast today as the frustration continues to grow over their mounting losses in the region. Once again, so for those that may be new here, so I understand emotions are high when it comes to the situation in Ukraine, and we obviously have a very big Ukrainian bias. While we try to remain unbiased in a lot of ways and apolitical in a lot of ways, we simply, as a channel and as a organization, just cannot back the Russian Federation in any way, shape, or form. However, with that being said, please do not call the Russian people, and we do not use derogatory terms here. I could all day long if I really want to. There's a lot of people that I, could use it for. There's a lot of, there's a lot of bad sentiments I can have. I've had to deal with the Wagner Group. I have had to deal with the Islamic State. I've had to see a lot of very terrible things that both of them have done first person in my time in Syria. I've had to deal with Kataib Hezbollah. I've had to deal with the Iranian-backed fighters. I had to deal with just Iranian fighters. There's a lot of things that I could say that would be, I have a lot of reason to say that, but I don't. I don't believe that the average person in Syria, in Iraq, and in Iran are bad. The average person is not bad. Likewise, I've had the wonderful, fortunate thing of being able to talk to people from Russia as well. And the average Russian person is not bad. I do not hate on the people. Do not hate people. It's a terrible. This is exactly the same thing that causes wars like this in the first place. Okay? The Russian people are not bad. The people in Syria aren't bad. Nobody's bad. It's just the governments and the military that are doing these things. So please do not use the term orc here. Do not call them rats. Do not call them dogs. Do not call them pigs. Do not call, if they're regarding the Middle East, do not call them hajis. Do not call them anything. Okay? Because that is not correct. We will remove those messages. We will eventually, if it continues, remove you from being able to message and everything here on the stream. That is not how we do things around here. Never will. Never have. Don't agree with it. Hate it. And so with that, please be mindful in what you're saying. We're not trying to, that's not the kind of community we want here, and that's not the kind of community we're going to be fostering. So with that little PSA over, we'll continue on with the news. And as we roll into the rest of Europe, we actually start down here in Spain, where Spain is, the Spanish army will train Ukrainian troops there in Zaragoza. The Spanish army will join the process of Ukrainian military training, but on its territory. The training will reportedly take place in the Spanish city of Zaragoza. And as the UK is already doing on its territory, the Spanish Ministry of Defense is believed to be fulfilling one of the commitments made to Volodymyr Zelensky's government and will invite the Ukrainian military to train ahead of military deployments. The armed forces of Ukraine will be trained in the management of tanks, missile systems, military medicine, and sapper work. And this is actually coming from the Ministry of the Ukrainian Defense Ministry here. Over here in Geneva, today is World Suicide Prevention Day. So, established in 2003 by the International Association for Suicide Prevention in conjunction with the World Health Organization, this year's World Suicide Prevention Day is focusing on creating hope through action. The goal is to raise awareness about suicide, which took the lives of 703,000 people each year, with 20 times more people who attempted to or contemplating suicide. Suicide is a public health concern, and by raising awareness, reducing the stigma around suicide, and encouraging well-informed action, we can reduce the instances of suicide around the world. And here we have several posts made by the World Health Organization. He said, what you need to know. Thinking about suicide or self-harm is a sign of severe emotional distress. It is not a weakness. You can get better. You are not alone. Many people have gone through what you're experiencing and have found help. It's okay to talk about suicide. And coming from the United Nations Women Program, they have also released something here for you. So something you can help is to listen attentively, practice empathy, and check in and ensure safety, encourage and empower, and suggest seeing a professional. And this is the WHO. This is their official campaign regarding their website here. Now, this is something that I have a personal investment in when it comes to suicide prevention. I have lost people very dear to me due to suicide, and the thing is that you do need to get help, and you do need to talk to somebody about these things if you are having this kind of issues. I certainly have had issues about myself, especially, coming back from my first deployment, which was very rough. And then also, there's a long time after I got out of the Marine Corps when I felt like I kind of lost a purpose in life. And that took a very big toll on me. I got into a really downtrodden place. But as I got out and started talking to people, I went and I got a job, which was very much by the support of my significant other. I went out and got a job, started talking with people, became much more open with people, and it really helped. And if you are having these issues, you feel free to talk to anyone. Reach out to people. If you know someone going through it, please reach out to them. If you think that they may be having a difficult time, if you yourself are having a difficult time and no one's reaching out to you and you feel like you're just kind of drowning in everything, if you're from the United States, such as myself, you can call the U.S. Suicide Prevention Line, much like 911. Theirs is 988. And then if you need help, once again, you can get to this map, as I've told you several times over. You can go onto our the link to our website's in the description. Go to Our Works, Daily Maps 2022. You can click on the map. And on this point, I have also listed a list of international numbers for suicide prevention hotlines across the globe. So if you need help, please dial one of these numbers. It is worth it. I know it's difficult, but please be sure that to try and get some help and to talk to somebody. I really don't want to see anyone having to go through a lot of these things, and this is important. So I hope that, if nothing else, that list and those numbers help you or somebody that you deeply care about. And as we continue on with the news here, Charles III has been formally proclaimed King of the United Kingdom. And we see that he is now proclaimed as the sovereign of the United Kingdom Saturday morning. The ceremony was followed by a gun salute and reading off proclamations in London and across the four corners of the United Kingdom. The official coronation will take place at a later date. And this is like an hour long. Okay.
Rightfully come.
Yeah, we're just not gonna watch that. It's an entire, it's like an hour and 10 minutes, guys. So I'm sorry, but if you would like to watch that, you certainly can. His Majesty the King has given a personal declaration today at today's Ascension Council, in which he was formally proclaimed King Charles III.
Lords, ladies and gentlemen, it is my most sorrowful duty to announce to you the death of my beloved mother, the Queen. I know how deeply you, the entire nation, and I think I may say the whole world, sympathize with me in the irreparable loss we've all suffered. It is the greatest consolation to me to know of the sympathy expressed by so many to my sister and brothers, and that such overwhelming affection and support should be extended to our whole family in our loss. To all of us as a family, as to this kingdom and the wider family of nations of which it is a part, my mother gave an example of lifelong love and of selfless service. My mother's reign was unequaled in its duration, its dedication, and its devotion. Even as we grieve, we give thanks for this most faithful life. I am deeply aware of this great inheritance and of the duties and heavy responsibilities of sovereignty which have now passed to me. In taking up these responsibilities, I shall strive to follow the inspiring example I have been set in upholding constitutional government and to seek the peace, harmony, and prosperity of the peoples of these islands and of the Commonwealth realms and territories throughout the world. In this purpose, I know that I shall be upheld by the affection and loyalty of the peoples whose sovereign I have been called upon to be, and that in the discharge of these duties, I will be guided by the counsel of their elected parliaments. In all this, I am profoundly encouraged by the constant support of my beloved wife. I take this opportunity to confirm my willingness and intention to continue the tradition of surrendering the hereditary revenues, including the Crown Estate, to my government for the benefit of all, in return for the sovereign grant which supports my official duties as head of state and head of nation. And in carrying out the heavy task that has been laid upon me, and to which I now dedicate what remains to me of my life, I pray for the guidance and help of Almighty God.
So, pretty cool. That's King Charles III now addressing at the Ascension Council. I will say that on a personal note on my end, I highly recommend maybe working on some public speaking. I know it's hard, man, but that was a little tough to sit through. It's very important, but it was a little tough to sit through. So the arrangements for the Queen's funeral were also announced. The state funeral of Her Majesty the Queen will take place at Westminster Abbey on Monday the 19th of September. Prior to the state funeral, the Queen will lie in state at Westminster Hall for 4 days to allow the public to pay their respects. This is coming from the royal family. As we jump down here and as we start to begin to transition from Europe and into the Middle East, Greek patrol ships ended up firing on a Turkish vessel. The Turkish ro-ro ship with an Azerbaijani crew was shot at by 2 Greek Coast Guard patrol ships. This is getting reported out of Kankal, there over in Turkey.
Şu anda Yunan sahil güvenlik gemileri Anatolian gemisine saldırıyor.
Egyptian, Somali, and Turkish and Algerian.
This comes as tensions between Greece and Turkey continue to flare in the region over disputes within the Aegean Sea. And as we jump down here into the Middle East, we have several different developments coming out of Afghanistan tonight. The first development is here where many people were injured after several IED attacks occurred in the southwestern part of Kabul. In a settlement of Dasht-e-Barachi in western Kabul, there were several explosions of IEDs aimed at local residences. At least 6 people were injured, but the number could be many more, as the Taliban have already cordoned off the area and are not currently letting any kind of journalists in. You can see some of the destruction there from afar. It's not the only issue. A helicopter crash resulted in at least 3 dead and 2 injured. During a training flight, the Taliban, using a Sikorsky UH-60 Black Hawk helicopter, crashed. In the crash of the aircraft, 3 people died, including both pilots, and 2 others were injured. The cause was an accident of the accident is reported a technical malfunction. Down here, this is in Gardez. High school girls are currently rallying against the closing of their schools. And Paktia, in Paktia province here in Gardez, the high school girls rallied, whose schools the Taliban again closed. According to local news, the demonstration is taking place in the city of Gardez, in the center of the province. Earlier, in a number of its districts, schools were opened for girls of all ages. With the consent of the local elders, their families agreed with the school authorities. This continues as the Taliban continue to consolidate and constrain their holdings there in Afghanistan, implementing Sharia law slowly but surely throughout the nation. As we jump over here to Islamabad, once again, we continue to get more updates regarding the flooding. The Secretary General of the UN, Antonio Guterres, did end up visiting Pakistani capital of Islamabad and Sakur and Lakarna of Sindh, the worst hit province by the flood, to meet with first responders and citizens who volunteered to help their community in the flood's aftermath. Volunteers in Dubai, United Arab Emirates, gathered in Dubai Exhibition Center to pack aid kits for Pakistani victims. Aid from the U.S. aid also arrived in Pakistan, delivered by the Department of Defense.
I've seen many humanitarian disasters in the world, but I have never seen climate carnage on this scale. I have simply no words to describe what I've seen today. Climate change caused by human activity is supercharging storms and catastrophes. These extreme weather events have the fingerprints of human activity all over them, specifically the burning of fossil fuels eating our planet. The needs are enormous, and I urge massive and urgent financial support for Pakistan. It is a question of justice. Pakistan is paying the price of something that was created by others.
That was Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Gutierrez. Coming from the College Times here. This is the Emirates Red Crescent movement. The ICRC doesn't just stand for the International Committee of the Red Cross, but it's also known as the International Committee of the Red Crescent in Arab countries. And this is coming from the United States Central Command. This is their flights of U.S. aid supplies coming into the country of Pakistan. And as we jump down here and into Africa, unknown militants attacked a settlement in Ituri province. 17 people were killed in the attack from the province of Ituri. More than 30 were injured. The incident took place on September the 9th in a settlement of Jungu County, where gold mine workers and their families are living. According to official figures, the attackers opened fire on civilians and then ransacked their dwellings. 7 women and 2 children were also killed in the massacre. Authorities suspected that Codeco militants who have carried out similar attacks in the area are behind the attack. And see the remnants of several of these people's homes. And that wraps up the main parts of the news tonight, but we do have several interesting or kind of uplifting news stories to end the day off with. The thing is that we understand the news is very dark and depressing, right? And we're trying to do good with it, but the news is pretty dark and depressing in many points. The stuff that usually is hitting the main parts of the news are usually not good. But actually, before we get into the main parts of the news, what we have is the fact that a major earthquake, as was reported earlier via the chat, did actually occur here in Papua New Guinea. You can actually get some information here for you. So, coming out of Leh in Papua New Guinea, a 7.6 magnitude earthquake did end up hitting the region. And as we're getting information here, we're not seeing anything about casualties yet, but I will get some of this for you. So we're pretty much doing this live of what we would normally do when we're doing the stream, before the stream, guys. So I apologize if it's taking a little bit, but I'm trying to get all of this stuff here for you regarding the news story. And there's been several different things here posted regarding this. Okay, and so there we go. A 7.6 magnitude earthquake has hit East Papua New Guinea with a tsunami warning that has been issued. In Jakarta, Indonesia, a 7.6 magnitude earthquake hit off Papua New Guinea on Sunday, with locals reporting damage to buildings near the coastal town of Madang and further inland. The U.S. Geological Survey, which reported the quake, issued a tsunami warning, but has subsequently said the threat has now passed. It did, however, note that it could still be minor sea level fluctuations in some coastal areas. Power outages and damage to buildings were reported in parts of Papua New Guinea, with shaking felt widely throughout the country from towns near the epicenter of the capital, Port Moresby, about 300 miles or 480 kilometers away. Images of the images and videos of the damage to a university in the eastern highland town of Goroka showed large cracks appearing in the walls and window awnings falling during the earthquake. So it was the epicenter appears to have been around Leh Moro province, and the earthquake of a magnitude is 7.6. The quake hit a moderately shallow depth of roughly 70 kilometers beneath the epicenter of near Leh in the morning of Sunday, September the 11th, 2022, at 9:46 a.m. local time. The magnitude and other quake parameters can still change in the coming hours as the agency continues to process seismic data. It is unclear the extent of damage has been. No casualties or impact have been reported to rural areas. At 23:55 UTC or 19:55 Eastern Standard Time, the Pacific Tsunami Center, or Pacific Tsunami Warning Center, issued a tsunami threat message warning of the potential for dangerous tsunami waves along the coast of Papua New Guinea and Indonesia within 1,000 kilometers or 620 miles of the epicenter. They announced later that the tsunami threat was over, but noted minor sea level fluctuations in some coastal areas were still possible. This is coming from NDTV regarding the initial reporting on this. This is coming from the USGS, U.S. Geological Survey. And that is their map regarding the situation there for Papua New Guinea. Take a look at some of this footage coming out right now. And so that is what we have for you today on that earthquake there in Papua New Guinea. Let's see if I can find the correct point there to the epicenter. So there you go, live update regarding what was brought up earlier. So thank you. I do not remember who initially sent that in. Oh, Sipcox, thank you very much for sending that in for us. And thank you very much for the staff for the quick response on that. That's pretty cool. So thank you. But yes, that's very massive shaking. So out in California, I really did not. I had one good instance in which I was there for two. think I was there for 2 good instances of an earthquake. There's one that happened out in the Mojave Desert, out in Joshua Tree National Park, actually. It happened, if I can find it. It happened, where are you at? Joshua Tree National Park. Right here, actually. So at this little Y intersection right here, and this is where that earthquake occurred, out there in 29 Palms. But yeah, it's kind of a weird feeling. Like, you're rocking back and forth, and like things are like jingling on the wall. Maybe you'll knock like some pictures down and everything. Like, it's really weird feeling. It's a very weird feeling, and you're just kind of like, it woke me up. It's the only one I've ever been awake for. I guess we've had a couple from some ancient fault lines in Indiana and in Illinois and in Missouri and stuff, but like, it's like, I never have woken up to, whenever being in the Midwest, I've never woken up to an earthquake. Well, California I did, and it was weird. It was very, very weird. But now, to get back, we have the uplifting news that we were talking about, and we can see that over here, DART has set its sights on an asteroid target. NASA's Double Asteroid Redirection Test, or DART spacecraft, got its first look at Didymos, the double asteroid system that includes its target, Dimorphos. The image of the light from the asteroid Didymos is a composite of 243 images taken by the Didymos Reconnaissance Asteroid Camera for Optical Navigation, or DRACO. The first set of images is being used as a test for improving our imaging techniques, said Elena Adams, the DART Mission Systems Engineer at the Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Laboratory. The quality of the image is similar to what we could obtain from ground-based telescopes, but it is more important to show that DRACO is working properly and can see its target to make any adjustments needed before we begin using images to guide the spacecraft into an asteroid autonomously. On September 26, DART will intentionally crash into Dimorphos, the asteroid moonlet of Didymos. With the asteroid poses no threat to Earth, it is the first test of kinetic impact technique using spacecraft to deflect an asteroid for planetary defense. You can actually see this from NASA there. And then that is the asteroid. And that's their target. That little dot in the sky. That's their target. And if you want more information, you can actually go to NASA and get it. Charlton. Man. No, man. Anyway, as we move over here and into the other points, out of Beijing, a lunar soil particle in an art exhibition celebrating the Mid-Autumn Festival. The Central Academy of Fine Arts, or the CAFA, revealed microscopic images of lunar soil among 1,731 grams of lunar samples retrieved from the moon's surface by Chang'e 5. The exhibition showed over 100 images and videos processed through image fusion, three-dimensional 3D reconstruction, and virtual reality technology. If you want some more information, you can check out that on the news.china or english.news.cn. Out of Seoul, South Korea, what we end up seeing here, out of Jejeon, South Korea. For the past several years, scientists have been trying to create substantial sustainable fusion reactions inside power plants by the means of generating heat for conversion into electricity. Scientists working on the problem have found it difficult to control fusion reactions. The slightest deviations lead to instabilities that prevent the reaction from continuing. Researchers at Korea's Superconducting Tokamak Advanced Research Center, or KSTAR, used an approach called an internal transport barrier. It works by creating an area of high pressure near the center of the plasma to keep it under control. They also note that the use of the internal transport barrier, it results in a much denser plasma than the other approach, and that is why they chose to use it. In the latest test at the facility, the team was able to generate heat up to 100 million Kelvin, which is 179,999,540 degrees Fahrenheit, or 99,999,727 degrees Celsius, and to keep the reaction going for 20 seconds. Other teams have either generated similar temperatures or kept their reactions going for a similar amount of time. And this is the first time both have been achieved in one single reaction. So that's a pretty huge thing, because fusion reactors would be, as opposed to the fission reactors, fusion reactors are nice. There's nuclear energy, there's like fission nuclear energy, and then there's fusion nuclear energy. And fusion nuclear energy means a lot of things. That would be awesome. Think of it making your own artificial sun and then being able to generate power with it. That means free energy pretty much for everybody on the planet. That's pretty much what that means. It'd be insane to think about the energy you'd be able to generate with it. That could quite literally, that's clean energy, and that's clean energy too. Like it's clean energy. So it's a renewable resource of energy that generates massive amounts of energy that would be able to power like the entirety of Shanghai. No problem whatsoever. Like, you don't have to have multiple power plants or anything. You just essentially have one. And to wrap it up for the night, Southeast Asia is celebrating Mid-Autumn. The Mid-Autumn Festival is celebrated on August the 15th of the lunar calendar. And that actually falls on September the 10th of this year, or today. The Southeast Asian country is celebrated by moon viewing and moon cakes. Happy Mid-Autumn Festival. And there are moon cakes for you. And so this is coming out of Sichuan province in China, where the massive earthquake relief has been ongoing. So let's go ahead and take a look.
On Saturday morning, villagers of Ganlusi Village, Luding County in China's Sichuan cooked a local delicacy for people at a quake relief shelter to celebrate the Mid-Autumn Festival. The delicacy, known as pork stew, was made by about 30 villagers. The Mid-Autumn Festival is generally regarded as one of the most important traditional festivals in China. This year's Mid-Autumn Festival falls on Saturday. The quake relief shelter houses some 600 people affected by the 6.8 magnitude earthquake that jolted Luding County on Monday.
泸定县二中作为一个我们受灾的父老乡亲们的一个安置点，一方有难，八方支援，祝他们中秋节快乐，没有过不去的坎，希望我们共同努力渡过难关。
今天我们青岛南里老社听见我们的就是老书记为安置点送菜，我们村民都很激动。在这个中秋节嘛，为大家集结一份力量，做一个可口的饭菜，献上一份爱。
同时，我非常的感动，也感谢我们这些找出来支援我们的志愿者些。 也感谢我们这些来到我们这些村的老百姓是为我们施来，也为我们送吃的。
那个今天中秋节，虽然说我们是受灾的，这个到处的好心人给我们捐款，我说这个很温暖的中秋节。
So that's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool little celebration that everyone around that area is doing. And so I hope it's a nice and peaceful, if you are celebrating Mid-Autumn Festival for you. And with that, that's actually all the news in the world tonight. That is everything that has been ongoing throughout the entirety of the globe, and with focuses, of course, when it comes to Ukraine, and as well as many of their humanitarian missions that are ongoing throughout the world and ongoing conflicts. I hope that you guys are being safe, and I hope that you, your family, and your friends are safe as well as we continue going through everything every single day when it comes to the news. I hope that none of you are part of these kind of news stories, but if you are, I do hope that things like this project help. And this project does help, thanks to you guys. If you guys go and check out the video description below, you're going to see a ton of different organizations. All these help people. It's meant to help people. It's meant to support efforts ongoing throughout the world to help people. And that's the whole point of this channel. We're the news that gives back, and that is the most important thing of the entire project. Whether it's one person watching this or a million, everything that we do is going to be for charity, which is why we're never doing super chats. And we're never going to push any kind of merchandising. We're not going to profiteer off of other people's misery. But it's really directed by you guys. You guys are the driving force behind this, and you guys have built an amazing community. So please, please check out all those organizations below. And if you can't give a lot, give a little. And if you can't give anything at all, that's perfectly okay too. Please help us grow this project. The more people that are here, the more people that watch the news, the more of an impact we're going to have throughout the world and on these situations, such as the ones in Ethiopia and Somalia, and in places such as Ukraine. So thank you very much for the support you've already given us. I cannot talk highly enough of. We never thought we would be here at this point, and it's been an awesome journey with you guys so far. We can't wait to get to the point where we can actually put fundraisers directly onto the streams. And so we can raise hopefully upwards of $1 million through that. That's really what we want to do. But thank you very much, everybody, for the support, even more so for the support of the organizations below. And so hopefully we continue growing this thing. We got some things in the work here soon, so we'll have some further announcements probably tomorrow for y'all. And with that, I hope that you guys have a fantastic rest of your night. Have a wonderful Sunday. We hope to see you back tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 9 p.m. Central. My name is Paul from the New News, and have a fantastic night, everybody.
Going home, Russian soldiers, going home. Бо ми всіх вас тут змішаємо з багном. Після ядового лаги і чудно кличе діти нахуй. Тут працює ЗСУ і ТМО. Нам не треба ні конфлікту, ні війни. Та ми готові всіх вас слать до сатани. Тисячі вже полягло, і все більше шверхуйло. То для них нема нічого, крім труни. Going home, Russian soldiers, going home. Бо ми всіх вас тут змішаємо з багном. Після ядового лаги і чудно кличе діти нахуй. Тут працює ЗСУ і ТМО. Вызволять пришел, братишка, ну привет. На моей земле тебе один ответ. Нашим людям с кирпичом, даже танки и бачок. Вам не взять нас и за 100 000 лет. Going home, Russian soldiers, going home. Бо ми всіх вас тут змішаємо з багном. Після ядового лаги і чудно кличе діти нахуй. Тут працює ЗСУ і ТМО.
Mr. Putin, on behalf of all our guys, no one's scared of your nuclear device. You can take your top 11, shove it up your wrinkle bomb. Oh, we'll come to help you fit it in your skull.
Russian soldiers going home. Бо ми всіх вас тут змішаємо з багном. Після ядового лаги і чудно кличе діти нахуй. Тут працює ЗСУ і ТМО. Going home, Russian soldiers going home. Бо ми всіх вас тут змішаємо з багном. Після ядового лаги і чудно кличе діти нахуй. Тут працює ЗСУ і ТМО. Russian soldiers go